Hey, welcome and thank you for joining me today for launching mentoring at your church. So obviously you have found us here at Radical Mentoring and excited to have you on today's webinar. And hey, the big thing that we know that you're at right now is you've gone online, you've created an account, and many of you are looking at that saying, oh my goodness, what in the world is next? So now that you have an account, you have access to all of our resources. And so, hey, I really am here today to help give you some good practical next steps to look at what launching looks like at your church. So when you have access to all of these resources on the website, I know it can be a little bit intimidating. It can be like, man, where in the world do we begin? How do we get started on this? And so that truly is why we're doing this today, to give you some idea of what it looks like to get started. So let me first of all introduce myself. My name is Trey, and the best way I can describe myself is just a guide for you. And so as you think of the website, as you look at the resources and what it is, hey, we try and put it on the website, and you'll notice on the website it's all there, and we lay it out in a way that's going to be best for you to be able to launch mentoring. But we also know that some things might get lost in translation. And so one of the things that's important to us is we don't just want you to launch mentoring, we want you to have the experience with mentoring, and we want your men to have the experience with mentoring that we know is going to impact them for years to come. So that's really what I want to spend time today doing, is to look at it and say, hey, as you would go out west, maybe go to the Grand Canyon, what would it look like for someone to be your guide? They would probably tell you, hey, these are the places to visit. Based on the time you're going to spend here, go to these points. There's some obstacles that are going to stand in your way. We'll help navigate those obstacles. At the end of the day, they want you to have the best experience possible. So when I look at what this mentoring experience is and what this journey is we're going to take over the next few minutes, that's my hope for you, is that, hey, I want to point you in the right direction, show you the things that we really need to hit, show you the things that, hey, we don't want you to miss these things when it comes to mentoring. Look at potential obstacles that could pop up and really give you the best experience possible. So just think again of me as your guide. So let me give you a little bit of an agenda of where we're going today. And so let me give you kind of what we're not going to do. We're not going to spend minute by minute going through the website. I will introduce you to something on the website that is our guide, and so it will serve you well for being able to navigate the website. So I'll give you some small details about the website that will help you navigate it. But really, we're going to spend our concentration in three particular areas today. And so first of all, just want to give you a quick review. Many of you have probably spent time on the website. Some of you may not have, and that's okay. But I wanted to talk to you about, hey, what makes Radical Mentoring unique? Secondly, I want to talk about, hey, what are those can't-miss experiences about Radical Mentoring? So if we were to sit down over a cup of coffee and we're able to kind of look at the wisdom that we've had with mentoring over the last 19 years, if we look at the mentoring experience of hundreds of other churches who've been through there, what would they tell you? What would we tell you over a cup of coffee to say, hey, these are experiences and part of the process we don't want you to miss? And then very quick at the end, I'm going to give you a very quick overview of the Radical Mentoring process, as well as give you some practical next steps. So that'll be my motivation each time, and to wrap this up and give you some good practical next steps. So as you see our mission here listed next to me, our mission is to equip and encourage churches and mentors to develop men into disciple makers and leaders through our intentional small group mentoring process. So, hey, one of the things that we always say, and we truly mean it, is we don't want anything from you, we want something for you. And so this is what we want to talk about today. And so just know, as you're seeing this, as you logged into your account, I want you to think about other churches around the country who are doing mentoring. Because the reason you have access to these tools and resources is because other churches and men who've been impacted by the mentoring process have chosen to pay it forward to churches like yours. And so just know that ahead of time. There's never a place to put in your credit card. There's never a gotcha. There's no trap door. You have access to all the tools and resources. So hey, our prayer and hope is at the end of this journey for you and your men, hey, as you see the impact and what it's done for the men, that you have the chance to pay it forward to other churches as well. So that is our mission. And one of the things that I highly encourage you to do, and I could do a whole webinar alone on this, Mentor Like Jesus. It is the book that really lays out, hey, this is our mentoring philosophy. And it is a great place for you to start. So, hey, if you don't have a copy, go pick up a copy. And if you can't afford to pick up a copy, email me and I'll send you a PDF of it. I think you've probably gotten an email that says, hey, you can get a copy here. And so this would be a great place to start. So as we talk about today, hey, what makes radical mentoring unique and what are those can't-miss experiences? Most everything that I'm talking today is going to be pulled from our book, Mentor Like Jesus, which really lays it out perfectly why we mentor the way that we do. But not going to spend a whole lot of time on it today. But let's go ahead and move on to where we're going to go with today. So what I mentioned first of all is what makes radical mentoring unique. So there's actually many, so I had to kind of narrow it down. So I've got 4 in particular that I really wanted to concentrate on. So number 1 would be relationship above content. So one of the things you'll never hear us say, we won't refer to this as a curriculum. We don't believe it's a program. In fact, the mistake you can make is trying to programatize it. And so the importance of this when you're picking out a mentor, so whether the mentor is going to be you or whether you're picking a mentor at your church, one of the things we want to make sure you understand is this is not a teaching model. This is a facilitation model. And so 80% of what happens in these meetings is relationship building. What we do, we just provide some basic structure for that mentor so he doesn't have to think about, hey, what am I going to talk about? What questions am I going to ask? What are we going to read? All of that's done for him. So it allows him to put his concentration into building relationships, not figuring out what he's going to talk about. Number 2 thing I wanted to hit was a high standard. So if you think about most of all of our experiences, whether it's in small groups or whether it's in classes or anything else most of us are involved with in church, we know that when you have 10 people in a group, maybe half of them will show up, maybe half of those will have done their homework. So for most of our experiences, it is a very low bar that's set for groups. And so one of the things that you'll notice as you look at the website and as you hear the tone, there is a high standard for this. And so it's unlike anything most guys have ever had the chance to experience. And so we would encourage you to let that be what it is. So we'll even dive in a little bit deeper into kind of what that is, but the biggest thing you're going to know is just a high standard for all the guys involved. Number 3 that I put in here is invite to apply. So it's not one of these things you're going to mass advertise. It is one of the things that is also unique about it is you're inviting guys to apply and be a part of the process. Not that they're going to get it automatically, but you're inviting them to apply. And another big thing that really stands out, that is a big change for a lot of people because when most people hear mentoring, what do you think about? You think about one-on-one. Well, ours is different. And this is a group mentoring model. So it's an intentional small group mentoring process. And so that is a huge difference in this mentoring and what a lot of people have experience with mentoring. So those are, again, just a handful of things that we think makes radical mentoring unique. I would encourage you again to go pick you up a copy of Mentor Like Jesus. It really dives into some of the other unique qualities of radical mentoring. But let's pretend we have a cup of coffee. I'd like a cup of coffee right now, but since we don't, let's go ahead and pretend we do. And I want to talk to you about, hey, what are the can't-miss experiences of radical mentoring? So again, as we borrow the experience of hundreds of churches that's done this, over 10,000 men who've been mentored. Reggie has been doing this for, I believe this is his 18th or 19th season of doing this. And so as we look at that, hey, one of the things that absolutely can get lost on the website is concentration on certain areas. So sometimes we can get locked into, hey, what tracks are we going to use? What does my binder look like? Hey, what does this first meeting look like? So what we wanted to make sure today is to spend time on things that we think are things that are non-negotiable, things you have to put some concentration to. So the first one I wanted to hit was mentor selection. So as we talk about mentor selection, to me, this is the best place to start because if you don't get this right, you shouldn't launch, in my opinion. So mentor selection is important enough till I say, hey, take your time and get it right. I have told plenty of churches that have questioned, hey, I'm not sure I have the right mentor for this, then my best suggestion is to wait. Don't launch if you don't feel like you have the right guy. It's worth waiting on. So, hey, what does that guy look like? And so being able to understand what you're looking for in this guy, we think is critical. So that's when we say, take your time and get it right. So one of the things I mentioned a couple of minutes ago was what the role looks like in this mentoring. And so again, it is not a teaching model. Many of the guys you may think about asking first if you're a pastor, you have this guy in mind who's a Sunday school teacher. And the biggest thing we always say is be careful who raises their hand first. Many times it's going to be a guy who's a great teacher. And there's absolutely time and place for teaching, but this is going to be something completely different. So it is a facilitation model versus a teaching model. In this, we provide a 3-hour conversation guide for the mentor. So if he spends that 3 hours teaching, he's going to see that group of 6 the first week dwindle down to, or the first month dwindle down to 4, to dwindle down to 2, because guys just don't want to spend 3 hours hearing someone teach them. So understand it is a facilitation model, and being able to have a guy who is willing to facilitate is going to be key. Kind of the next thing we want to hit on mentor selection is just what it says. Hey, who would you want your 30-year-old son to spend time with? And so as you look at around the church and who that potential guy is, hey, if you have a check in your spirit, like, I don't know that this is the right guy, man, if he spends time with him, he has to go put out some fires, and obviously that's not the right guy. So you want to find that guy who you would want to be, who you would want your son to be. So, kind of takes care of one of the first steps you're going to look at, which is mentor selection. The next step we really wanted to hit was handpicked mentees. And so, this we talked about it a minute ago by inviting guys to apply. And so, as you look at inviting guys to apply, hey, you're going to look at 4 different things that we think are important as you're looking to handpick mentees. So, first of all, one of the ways I like to describe this process, it is kind of the shoulder tap invite. I also use, hey, are you going to fish with a fishing line or a fishing net? And this is absolutely fishing with a fishing line. And so this is not one of those things we encourage you to get up on a Sunday morning and make an announcement from stage. It's not something you want to send a mass email out to the church. It's something that you want to process through as a pastor. You want to process through as a leader at the church and say, hey, and who are the guys that we see as potential leaders at the church we would like to take on a different journey, a deeper journey in their faith. And so those are the guys that you want to shoulder tap and invite to apply and be a part of the process. And so there you see step number 2, which is invite to apply. So one of the beautiful things about the website, again, we provide the website as a tool and a resource for you. So we actually have an application system on your website. You don't have to recreate anything. You don't have to go create an email and say what all the questions I want to ask. We have all of that for you. When you use the application system on the website, you get notified that you've had 6 guys apply. And so that's the beautiful part. So again, you're inviting these guys to apply. And then after that, you're going to pray and pick these guys. Pray and pick them wisely. So that is kind of, again, kind of the process. And then at some point in time, whether it's in a vision casting event where you potentially, you look at these guys you've invited to apply and be a part, you may in that first season want to invite them into a process of a vision casting meeting. So that first year is always a little bit tougher because guys don't know what they're, hey, what am I committing to? What is this process? I'm not exactly sure what this is. So sometimes a vision casting meeting might be helpful, and that's where I would put in front of them the covenant commitment. And so this is a critical part of the process. We talked about raising the bar, creating a high standard. That covenant is a huge part of that. So the covenant is going to lay out the expectations. So being able to put the covenant in front of guys in the vision casting meeting or early is going to be critical to the success of this. And being able to have a mentor or yourself who's going to hold them to that high standard. So I know in my meetings with my guys, I have read through line by line of the covenant. Don't just kind of breeze over the covenant. I would encourage you to go line by line so guys can feel the weight of the covenant. Promise you, churches and mentors that I've spent time with after the process, the only mistake I've ever heard them say, man, I hate that covenant way too much. Most of them would always say, man, I wish I would have held guys to the covenant earlier. because it is going to impact your atmosphere. Hey, so now that we've talked about mentors, talked about mentees, let's talk about story a little bit. And this is going to start early on. And one of the things we look at in the mentoring process is that, hey, in the first 60 to 90 days, man, there's going to be a bond formed with these guys that they've probably never experienced. And honestly, it's going to come from story. And so when we look at what story means and what it looks like in the mentoring process, the first place we want to go is with the mentor. So as you choose a mentor and look at your mentor, another aspect of the mentor that's going to be key is a guy who's willing to share his story and be vulnerable with the guys. And so not just his past story and where God has taken him, but also willing to share where he's at now, because the mentor is going to set the tone. In the first meeting these guys get together, the mentor is going to share his story. So I can guarantee you, as the mentor shares his story, he is going to set the tone for the next time they get together, which is the story retreat. And so as they follow up with that story retreat, they're going to take that same momentum that the mentor used, and man, that is going to absolutely set the tone for that retreat. And so, hey, there is information on the website about the retreat, but I'm going to tell you right now, it is the thing that is a can't miss. And the other part I have heard, hey, of guys who've gone through the experience, and if they have regret, it's guys who didn't put more concentration and emphasis on that story retreat. So don't miss on the story retreat. And so you're quickly going to follow that up with some one-on-ones. So again, the mentor's going to share his story the first meeting. Go to the story retreat where the guys are going to share their stories, and then right after that, the mentor is going to start connecting with the guys on a one-on-one basis for the next 30 to 60 days. So he'll spend a time with each one of the guys just going through their story. So a lot of that's on the website. We'll give you a quick preview. The bigger thing I want you to hear from me today is, hey, don't miss on the story retreat. So kind of brings us to the last one that I want to talk with today about, hey, what are those can't miss experiences with radical mentoring? The last thing I really want to hit today is start slow and trust the process. So, hey, my dad is with Chick-fil-A, and I remember standing next to him back in 1982 when Trey and Kathy gave him the keys to the store, and he said two things. He said, don't open on Sunday and follow the recipes. And especially for this first season, our biggest recommendation to you is stick with the process as it is. And so let it be what it is. And this is a time-tested resource that, again, we have seen hundreds of churches use, over 10,000 mentors go through, and we know it works as it is. And so the beautiful part, as we talked about, hey, it's relationship building, and 80% of what happens in these meetings are relationship driven, but we would say, hey, when it says do the story retreat, do the story retreat. When it says do these books, we recommend in that first season to use those books. And so that's our best recommendation, and especially this first season, use it as it is. And so, again, I think I mentioned this earlier, but don't let it become a program. Don't programatize it. Let it be what it is. And always our best suggestion coming out of the gate is just to launch one group. Don't feel the pressure, again, to make it something, make it be something every man of the church needs to go through in the first season. Don't feel the pressure to do that. So after you go through the first season, hey, even if it takes time after that first season to get some momentum again and find the right group of guys for the next season, don't feel rushed. Take your time and make sure you do it right. You have one chance to launch this. And so I always say, hey, make sure you do it right. So don't feel the pressure to make it bigger than it really needs to be, especially in that first season. So we've talked a little bit about, hey, what makes radical mentoring unique. We've talked about some of those can't miss experiences, but I also feel it's critical for me to at least give you a little snapshot of the website, a quick idea of what the process looks like. The biggest thing I want to say on the website is there is a web guide on the website. Not sure if you can see it over my shoulder, but I would encourage you to click and download the web guide. It will walk you through and guide you through the website. The website is laid out in the order of how you need to conquer these things. So I can also follow up with a checklist that you'll get after this as well that will also go step by step, kind of in the same order you're going to see on the website. So, not sure how much time each of you have spent on the website at this point in time and had a chance to look at the process, but just really quick, the 5 basic elements of what those 3-hour meetings look like. Again, you're meeting once a month for 3 hours. And the basic 5 elements are, number 1, you're reading a book, and each guy's going to provide a net out of the book. Essentially, hey, here's what I heard, here's what I'm going to do about it. They're memorizing a couple of scriptures, be a key word. They're completing some growth assignments. Obviously, they're establishing community, authentic community with each other. And then prayer is going to be an enormous part of the group. And so as we look, those 5 key elements are going to happen each and every month without fail. So we don't change from that. We don't drift from that. Those 5 things are going to happen each and every month. So here's just a brief example. This is month number 3, which is theology. And so you'll see the book that's there, The Good and Beautiful God. It's going to provide a net out. You'll see the scriptures that are memorized, again, via keyword. You'll see the keywords listed there. There's the homework assignments listed there. And then obviously, as we mentioned, community, and they're praying for themselves as well. So anyway, that is, again, a snapshot of what all of that looks like. All of this is on the website, but I just wanted to make sure you had a brief sight of exactly what this looks like. So, hey, so we had a chance to talk about, hey, what makes this unique? What are the Canvas experiences? Quick snapshot of the website. Encourage you to dig into the website, get very familiar with it. But I wanted to give you some good practical next steps for what it looks like to launch. So, 4 steps to launch. Going to keep it simple here. So, number 1, picking a launch date. This is really up to you. One of the things you'll notice about the website's built to where September and January are the most popular launch dates. Again, they kind of go along with the calendar really well. However, the beautiful part about this is you don't have to be trapped into launching one of those. You know, I would say the majority of our churches probably launch in September or January, but not all of them do. And so if November is the perfect month for you to launch, then November is a great time for you to launch. So we typically say 9 to 12 weeks. If you're just launching one group, it can probably be a little bit closer to 9. But 9 to 12 weeks is a good time frame to launch. But that's number 1, is to pick a date. And then number 2 is to tell us. So one of the things we're going to do after this is over, we'll send you an email, try to get an idea of where you're at in the process. And then you just communicate with us when your launch is going to be. And then we're going to send you a checklist for your launch. We're going to send you some training videos. We're going to prepare you ahead of time for what launching looks like to make sure you feel like you've got all of your I's dotted and T's crossed. So we're going to help guide you throughout the way. The other thing, like I mentioned, we're going to send you a checklist. It's really simple, not too detailed. It's going to help you, again, just stay on track. So we'll send you a checklist to walk you through there. And then at the end of that checklist, you'll also notice a time for me and you to connect. And so I love to be able to hop on the phone with you for 15 minutes or so to kind of walk through, hey, get an idea of where you're at in the process, when your launch is, and what that looks like. And so you can save any questions, or else you can email questions ahead of time. But we'd love to connect with you if that serves you well. If you don't feel like you need to, if you need to connect, then that's fine. But again, we'd love to have a chance to connect with you before you launch. So, what next step is? The next step is you're going to get an email from me, kind of asking where you're at in the process. You're going to get a series of those emails. And so we look forward to hearing from you and how this is going to go. So we are excited you found us on the website. We're excited you created an account. And more importantly, we're excited for you and about the men in your church and the impact mentoring can have on them. So again, we look forward to hearing from you and getting you set up. Thanks so much.